The Fellowship of the Ring 1, The Lord of the Rings, by J.R.R. Tolkien. The 11st birthday. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the Shire as hobbits from all corners bustled about, their preparations for Bilbo Baggins' 11st birthday underway. The air was alive with laughter and the lilting melodies of flutes and fiddles, while the tantalizing aroma of roasted meats and freshly baked breads wafted from the party field, where tents and tables groaned under the weight of hobbit fare. Bilbo, sprightly and with a mischievous glint that belied his years, surveyed the scene. Spotting the towering figure of Gandalf weaving through the crowd, he called out, "Ah, Gandalf! Just in time to add a spark to the festivities, I trust." Gandalf, with a twinkle mirroring Bilbo's own, replied, "Indeed, Bilbo. The South Farthing's finest pipeweed couldn't keep me away. But what of you? Are you prepared for what's to come?" With a knowing smile, Bilbo leaned closer. "I've prepared a little spectacle that will give them something to talk about for years to come," he whispered, his hand momentarily brushing the outline of the ring in his pocket. As dusk settled, the Shire was ablaze with lanterns, and the party thrummed with energy. Hobbits danced and sang, their faces aglow with merriment. Frodo, Bilbo's young cousin and chosen heir, shared in the laughter with his friends Merry and Pippin, though a strange, anticipatory tension gripped him, a premonition stirred by the weight of an unassuming band of gold that lay hidden, its significance yet to be revealed. Bilbo ascended the platform, his voice ringing clear. "My dear Bagginses and Boffins," he greeted, "Tooks and Brandybucks, Grubs, Chubs, Hornblowers, Balgers, Breaksgirdles, and Proudfoots." "Proudfeet," came the familiar retort, and Bilbo's grin widened. "Today I mark my 111th year," he announced, his voice carrying across the field. "Yet 11 years is far too brief a span to spend with such exemplary and estimable hobbits." A ripple of bemusement spread among the crowd as they grappled with the sentiment of Bilbo's words. "There are many among you I've yet to know as I would wish, and some I know all too well, yet not as you deserve. The The inheritance of peril." The morning sun peeked through the windows of Bag End, casting a warm glow over the room. Frodo Baggins sat quietly. The ring, a simple band of gold yet heavy with an unseen burden, lay before him. "Are you sure about this, Frodo?" Samwise Gamgee's voice broke the silence, concern etched in his features as he watched his friend. Frodo looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of determination and the weight of the unknown. "I must, Sam. Gandalf has made it clear. The ring cannot stay in the Shire. It's far too dangerous." "But where will you go?" Pippin asked, his youthful face filled with curiosity and a hint of fear. "To Rivendell," Frodo replied. Sam nodded, his loyalty unwavering. "Then I'm coming with you. You won't get rid of Sam Gamgee that easily." Pippin chimed in, "And I shall join as well. But Took's place is by his friend's side, especially in times of peril." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Gandalf, his tall figure filling the doorway. "The road ahead is fraught with danger, my dear hobbits. You must be swift and silent as the wind." Frodo slipped the ring into his pocket, feeling its cold touch against his skin. "We will be careful, Gandalf. You have my word." As the hobbits prepared for their departure, a sense of urgency filled the air, speaking of the darkness growing in the east. Frodo felt a restlessness stir within him, a call to adventure that he could no longer ignore. With quiet farewells and hearts brimming with both excitement and trepidation, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin set out from Bag End. Their journey would take them through the unknown, and the ring, a silent observer, would test their resolve at every turn. The fate of Middle-earth now rested in the hands of a hobbit from the Shire, and the path he chose would shape the destiny of all. The adventure had begun. allies in the shadows. The night was still in the Shire as Frodo, Sam, and Pippin made their way through the thickets, guided only by the stars and the faint path under their feet. The air was filled with the soft chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves. With each stealthy step, they avoided the crunch of twigs, mindful of any sound that could betray their presence. Suddenly, a chilling cry pierced the night. "Black Riders," whispered Pippin, his eyes wide with fear. "We must keep moving," Frodo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The ring is not safe here." As they pressed on, a soft melody drifted through the trees. Following the sound, they came upon an elf, cloaked in moonlight, singing an ancient song. "Halt! Who goes there?" the voice called out as the song ceased. "It's Gildor," Sam exclaimed with relief. "Gildor Inglorian, at your service," the elf said, stepping forward with a graceful bow. "You seem to be in great haste, little hobbits." "We are," Frodo replied. "We're on an important journey." Gildor's face grew serious. "Then you must not delay. Come, I will guide you to a safer path." With Gildor's guidance, they navigated through the dark, their path illuminated by the elf's lantern. As dawn approached, they reached the edge of Farmer Maggot's fields. "Good morning, Master Baggins," Farmer Maggot called out. "What brings you here so early?" "We're on an important journey," Frodo explained, "and we've run into some trouble." Farmer Maggot nodded. "I've seen one of those Black Riders myself. Nasty business. Here, I'll give you a ride to the ferry. It's the least I can do." As they settled into the wagon, a shadow loomed on the horizon. Ducking beneath a blanket, they held their breath as the figure passed by, the clatter of hooves fading into the distance. Crossing the ferry, Frodo's thoughts were tumultuous, a mix of fear and determination. "We owe our thanks to Gildor and Farmer Maggot," he said. "Without their help, we might not have made it this far." Sam nodded. "It's true, Mr. Frodo. There's kindness to be found even in the darkest of times." As the ferry reached the other side, a distant silhouette of a mountain loomed, hinting at the challenges ahead. The road was uncertain, but the fellowship of friends and strangers alike would guide them through the perils to come. The Shire was behind them, but the journey was far from over. The wisdom of Tom Bombadil. The hobbits, weary from their travels, found themselves in the peculiar home of Tom Bombadil after a series of unnerving encounters in the old forest. The atmosphere inside was a stark contrast to the ominous woods they had just traversed, filled with Tom's hearty laughter. "Sit you down, my merry friends," Tom boomed. "Eat, drink, and be merry, for here you are under my roof and safe from Old Man Willow's grasp." Tom regaled them with tales of the forest, of the first acorn and the first raindrop, speaking of time so ancient that the hobbits felt the weight of history upon them. His stories were like windows into a world full of wonder and mystery. "But the ring," Frodo pressed on, "it brings danger. Aren't you worried about its power?" Tom replied with a twinkle in his eye. "Worry about the ring? No, no, my young hobbit. That's a burden for others to bear. I am Tom Bombadil. And in my domain, I am the master. The ring has no sway over me." The hobbits exchanged glances, a mix of relief and confusion on their faces. Here was a being who existed outside the reach of their fears, a bastion of joy in a world growing ever darker. When the time came for sleep, Tom led them to their rooms, each hobbit feeling a sense of peace they hadn't known in a long while. The wisdom of Tom Bombadil lingered in their minds, a beacon of hope and a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is light to be found and joy to be had. The fog of uncertainty. The dense fog rolled in like a silent wave, swallowing the path before Frodo and his friends. The hobbits, once buoyed by the light of Tom Bombadil's house, now found themselves enveloped in a chilling mist that clung to them, as thick and obstructive as a wall of wool. "Sam! Pippin! Stay close!" Frodo called out, his voice barely piercing the thick air. "We mustn't lose each other in this fog." "Aye, Mr. Frodo," Sam replied, his hand firmly gripping the hilt of his new dagger. "It's like wading through a sea of clouds, it is." As they trudged forward, the hobbits' hearts were weighed down by an unease that grew with every step. The standing stones loomed over them, their ancient runes glowing faintly, casting long shadows that danced mockingly around the companions. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread began to build as a tall, dark shape slowly emerged from the mist. It was a Barrow-wight, a malevolent spirit of the ancient burial mounds, known for its mournful songs that could ensnare the living. "Don't, Frodo!" Pippin's voice cut through the fog, sharp with fear. "Remember what Gandalf said about the ring." Frodo's resolve hardened, and he drew his own dagger instead, its blade gleaming with a light that seemed to defy the darkness around them. Who goes there?" he demanded, though his voice trembled. The Barrow-wight's cold, pale eyes fixed on the hobbits, and a song, mournful and chilling, began to fill the air. The hobbits felt their limbs grow heavy, their wills bending under the weight of the haunting melody. Just as hope seemed to fade, a bright flame pierced the fog, and Tom Bombadil's voice boomed like thunder. "Oh, Tom Bombadil is here. Away with your dark spells, Barrow-wight." With a laugh that scattered the shadows, Tom danced forward, his hands alight with fire. The Barrow-wight recoiled, its form dissolving into the night as if it had never been. "Come now, my little friends," Tom said, his eyes twinkling. "Let's find the path again. The road debris is still long, and there are many eyes watching the way." The hobbits gathered around Tom, their hearts still racing from the encounter. As the fog lifted, they took a moment to collect themselves, the fear slowly replaced by a cautious optimism. "We'll make it to Rivendell, Mr. Frodo," Sam said, his voice steady. "We've got each other, and that's no small thing." Frodo nodded, his grip on the dagger loosening. "Yes, Sam. Together we'll see this through to the end." And with that, the hobbits continued their journey, the memory of the fog and the Barrow-wight lingering, but with many more challenges ahead. Guidance from Strider. The hobbits huddled together in the Prancing Pony, an inn that seemed to creak and whisper with age and secrets. Frodo, Sam, and Pippin sat close, their eyes darting around the room filled with strangers. The air was thick with the smell of pipeweed and stew, and the low murmur of conversation was occasionally punctuated by a raucous laugh or the clink of mugs. Suddenly the door swung open, letting in a gust of cold night air and a tall, cloaked figure. His boots thudded heavily on the wooden floor as he approached the hobbits' table. They tensed, hands inching towards their pockets where the ancient daggers given to them by Tom Bombadil rested. "Are you Mr. Underhill?" the stranger asked, his voice low and rough, his weather-beaten face partially obscured by a hood. "That's me," Frodo replied cautiously, eyeing the man. "And who might you be?" "They call me Strider," he said, pulling back his hood to reveal sharp eyes framed by a mane of shaggy hair, his face marked with the lines of many journeys. "I've been expecting you, Mr. Underhill." Sam's hand gripped the handle of his dagger under the table. "How do we know we can trust you?" he challenged. Strider reached into his cloak and produced a small, intricately carved wooden pipe. "This was given to me by Gandalf," he said, placing it on the table. "A token for you to know I speak the truth." Frodo's gaze lingered on the pipe, then met Strider's eyes. "Why would you help us?" he asked. "Because I have vowed to protect the heir of Isildur and all who aid him," Strider answered solemnly. "And because I am a friend of Gandalf the Grey." At the mention of Gandalf, the hobbit's tension eased. "Gandalf sent you?" Frodo asked, his suspicion waning. "He did," Strider confirmed. "We must be cautious and ready to depart." The hobbits nodded, a silent agreement passing between them. They would follow this ranger, this strider, into the unknown. Frodo's hand brushed against the chain around his neck, feeling the weight of the ring against his chest. A constant reminder of the perilous journey ahead and the dark forces that sought to claim it. In Strider's eyes, they saw not the shadow of a threat, but the glimmer of hope, the hope that they might just survive the long road to Rivendell. The Council of Elrond. The morning sun cast a gentle glow over Rivendell, the last homely house east of the sea, where the Council of Elrond was to be held. The air was filled with a sense of urgency, yet the beauty of the elven haven brought a calming presence to all who gathered. "Friends," Elrond began, "we have been called here to decide the fate of a burden that threatens to darken our lands. The One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron, must be destroyed." Frodo Baggins, the young hobbit who had carried the ring from the Shire, felt the weight of every eye upon him. Gandalf, the Grey Wizard, stood by his side in these daunting halls. "It has brought ruin to many and now seeks to return to its master. We must prevent this at all costs." Warriors, elves, dwarves, and men alike nodded solemnly. Among them, Aragorn, known as Strider, the Ranger of the North, stood tall. "I have pledged to protect Frodo," he said. "Where he goes, I will follow." Boromir of Gondor shifted uneasily. "We need the strength to fight back the darkness. Could not this ring be used against the enemy?" Frodo, surprising even himself, replied firmly, "The ring will corrupt anyone who tries to wield it." Elrond confirmed the ring must be taken to Mount Doom, where it was forged, and cast into the fiery chasm from whence it came. A silence fell over the council. Who would take on such a perilous task? "I will take the ring," Frodo said quietly, "though I do not know the way." Gandalf placed a hand on Frodo's shoulder. "Then I will guide you," he promised. One by one, others stepped forward. Legolas, the elf prince, Gimli, son of Gloin the dwarf, Boromir of Gondor, and Aragorn, heir to the throne of men. Samwise Gamgee, Frodo's loyal friend, would not be left behind. As the council disbanded, they felt the gravity of their quest. They were to journey through shadow and fire, but the unity forged in Rivendell's light would guide them through the darkest of times. The Ringbearer's Resolve. The golden light of Rivendell's morning filtered through the leaves as Frodo sat by the window, the ring a constant presence in his pocket. The distant chatter of the birds and the gentle flow of the river accompanied the silence of the room. "Are you ready, Frodo?" Gandalf's voice gently intruded upon the quiet. Frodo turned to face him, a quiet resolve in his eyes. "I will go. I must." As they made their way to the council, the members awaited him. Elrond greeted him with a nod of profound respect. "Frodo Baggins," Elrond addressed him, "will you take the ring to Mordor?" "I will take the ring," Frodo replied, his voice steady. Samwise Gamgee stepped forward. "And I shall go with Mr. Frodo, if you please, sir." Elrond acknowledged him, and the others stood in silent vow. Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir were ready to embark on the journey. With the fellowship now formed, they left Rivendell, the morning sun heralding the start of their quest. Frodo led them, his determination clear as they began their journey to destroy the One Ring.